Hi investors, it's Tom here, your local Manchester guy, and we are here with Neeraj again, our HMO expert from Luxury Hub. Hi Neeraj.
Hey Tom, how are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you for joining us again. Neeraj is very busy, but we managed to catch him again. He's on the road. I think he's sitting on a cafe, having a little break.
But I think we can.
So a bit of noise. Thank you for giving us your time on your break. We said last time we're going to go through some risks associated with investing in HMO. So let's get straight into it.
Yeah, okay. So we said top 10 risks. So first one I would say is licensing and regulatory compliance. HMO can be subject to complex licensing.
So we need a license for an HMO. Is that what you're saying?
Not necessarily. It can be subject, and it can be a risk if you don't comply. However, in many spaces, it does not need a license. So it could be. So without going into the detail right now, we can in the future session, is be careful. Do you need a license or not? Typically, below 4, you don't need a license, but that'll vary from area to area. Some areas you need a license for everything, but that's a risk, understanding licensing and compliance.
Right, good.
And then if we move on to the second one, I would say maintenance and repair costs. You know,
maintenance
as a landlord,
and repair, yes.
Yeah.
Is that different to a buy-to-let?
Completely, yeah. So you know the big difference is in a single let, the tenants are responsible for 90% of the maintenance. Usual regular wear and tear, they're not, but they're responsible for all the bills and all the repair costs on the whole. But, you know, that depends on the contract. With an HMO, it's the other way round. The landlord's responsible for 90% because the tenant is paying a rent just for the room and not a rent on the kitchen or the lounge, for example. So, you know, that can be costly and time consuming. But I think what I want to do in the session next week is the solutions to each of these risks, because there is a solution to each one.
Okay, so we've got higher running costs. What's next?
Tenant turnover. So that is, I mean, I came up with about 20, but these are the top 10. Tenant turnover can be a massive risk.
Do you mean are these HMOs easy to rent? Are they harder to rent?
If you do it right, they are easy to rent, but there's an element of risk in between rentals and tenants not staying. So that's a potential for lower rental income if you have high voids. So, you know, they're subject to high, because if you've got 6 rooms and the tenant's in a 6-month contract, that means every 6 months someone's moving out. So, you know, that can impact your rental income and profitability. So it's a risk again. There's a really clear solution for it.
Okay. Let's move on to the next one.
Difficulty in managing tenants, so tenant management. Managing tenants in a single family home is really easy. You give them the keys, they pay the bills, they're living in the house. So the elements of interface for problems is just the tenant with the building. In an HMO, you're interfacing tenants together, who's responsible, who's cleaning. So there's probably about 6 more variables that you need to take into account. You know, conflicts, enforcing house rules, addressing maintenance quickly and efficiently.
And this you mentioned last time, that's why you put same type of tenants together. I guess this is
exactly,
yeah,
exactly. You know, that's one of the solutions to that.
Solutions,
but again,
good.
It's a high one. And then moving on, number 5 would be increased damage and wear and tear compared to a single. Yeah, in HMOs, you've got 6. You could say 6 families, 6 people living in it. You know, increased wear and tear due to the number of occupants can result in higher maintenance costs, and potentially impact resale value of the property. So, you know, I'm not here to say everything's hunky-dory, HMOs are amazing. They can be if you manage your risks carefully.
So lots of people going in and out. More wear and tear. Yes.
Yeah. You've got to be on top of
that. You mentioned there about reselling. It can affect the resale. So tell us about reselling an HMO.
Yeah, I mean, resale value of the property is dependent on the condition of the property and your rental track record. And if you haven't managed it or kept on top of it, you're going to have a very, I've seen it many times where many landlords are getting out of a property that's been poorly managed or not managed at all.
So are you saying if it's not managed well, this is going to affect the resale?
Of course, completely, because landlords realize it's their asset, and if they just leave the tenants to live there without checking, regular checks on the condition, and there's ways to deal with that. I know you wanted to keep this shorter than last time, so I
Okay,
won't go
interesting.
into more detail of it really.
So the
Other than
running
be
of the
careful.
HMO is going to affect the resale. Okay. Well,
Completely.
what's next?
Just to be more specific, badly run HMO will affect the resale
Okay,
because of the net impact on the condition on sale.
good.
Okay, yeah. Next one, I would say a limited resale potential. If you've got an HMO and then you've got a family who are looking at purchasing it, you don't go to a local home estate agent who's selling family houses who markets it as a house for sale. You don't do that. You've got to specialize, go to, I don't want to, again, I won't go into the solution. You've got to go to a specialist seller.
Because
It can be a risk.
It's not a family home anymore.
Yeah, but then there's ways to convert it and present it converted back, and there's ways to really get good resale because they are in demand. But you've got to know how to harness the power of the network to get that resale potential. And when you know how, it's quite simple, and we can share that in the next video.
Okay. You touch on selling. What about getting a mortgage on the HMO? Can we mortgage them?
You're stealing my thunder. That was number 8. So we'll bypass 7 and we'll come back.
Okay. That was on your list. Good.
Difficult to get mortgages. Difficulties obtaining finance can be an issue. Lenders may be more hesitant to finance HMOs. I know some of your Hong Kong guys are struggling at the moment, but I have a solution for that. It's power of network and power of management. So that's what I probably will touch on a little detail. I know that the people think that lending's dried up. When Nick told me that lending's drying up, you can't get mortgages, I've just gone into my network. As long as it's well effectively managed, I don't want to say the rates right now, but watch this space. There is lending available at reasonably competitive market rates, even if you're not a UK national, and that's because of the power of.
So we can get lending. That's good.
Yeah. So, and again, it's dealing with it, and it's dealing with the mortgages and compliance and licensing, etc. And I'll mention the solution to that in another video. But going back to number 7 now is insurance.
Insurance.
If you go to, it's horses for courses. If you go to it's like going to a vegetarian restaurant and asking for a burger. It's like going to a regular insurance provider and asking for an HMO insurance. They're going to say, "Oh, we can't do it."
So we need specialist insurance.
Yeah, specialist.
Is it more expensive?
The network. It's more expensive than a family home, but it's not a crazy price.
Okay.
So it's still sub £1,000. A regular properties insurance can be about £300 to £500. An HMO can be
2-3 times.
Yeah, it can be maybe £600 to £900, maybe a little more cheap. So I think we're now on to number 9. Okay, so compared to a buy-to-let, I would say buy-to-lets aren't really dependent on local market conditions, but HMOs are, and that's the things we said about. I touched on last time: transport links, demand for rooms in that area, local businesses and their employment stats, time to stations, etc. Those kind of conditions.
So we've got to be more careful, do more research.
Yeah, and again, when we present our detailed presentations, not the summary PDFs that you're starting to load on, but the more detailed ones that I've guided Martin on. We talk about walk score, we talk about, that's a key one, and number of minutes to transport links and key employers. Those are the real key ones, I would say. And then
time for last one.
Yeah, is
final risk.
Capital cost. We touched on this one before. It was like a general one where we talked about capital costs and operational costs. It can require a significant capital expenditure upfront to convert the property, and that can be a risk if installing bathrooms, your fire equipment. So it's just making sure the investors goes in with his eyes open, and you make it transparent for them. That's a
So
risk if you
it's,
buy something thinking it's going to cost you 20 grand and it costs you 50 grand and you go,
Yep.
oh dear, where am I going to find? And I'm being polite when I say, oh dear, there's usually some expletives involved. I've
so
got to
we need
spend
more
50K.
more cash compared to a buy-to-let.
Not necessarily. I'm saying that beware of your capital expenditure requirement. Make sure you've had some really good due diligence on what it's going to cost and have a good floor plan, you know, and make sure that your manager or your partner or you know you've got a clear plan of what it's going to look like. So it's really going from A to B. What does it look like today? What does it look like when you're finished? And how much do you have to spend to make that happen?
Good.
So that's it. That was number 10. How did we
We
do for time? I know you told me off last
Tom,
time
let's
it was
check.
too
Well,
long.
we've done 10 risks. So we're gonna stop here. And next video, we're gonna go over the same list and you're gonna tell us how to deal with these problems.
Perfect. And I think
Perfect.
the other point that you made to me, Tom, is a couple of people have come back with some really interesting questions. So someone came back and said, could you give us an example video
Yeah,
of
so
what the property
we're gonna start collecting questions and we're gonna start making content specifically for those
Yeah.
questions. So if you got
Yeah.
any questions, anything you want to know, let us know on the WhatsApp and we will come back and make a little video for
Yeah,
you.
we'll do a specialist video on that area, whatever it is. You know, we want to be as open and transparent as possible. But I think the first one that you've asked me to do is this request for, well, what does these type of projects look like? So we can share a before and after video quite quickly. So there'll be less talking.
Yes.
I think the person who's asked that question, those videos have already gone out to them, but we'll go public with all of that. So that'll help. Make them
Yes.
as hard as possible, please. The
So
harder,
do put your
harder, the more
questions.
fun it is for me.
Yeah, do put your questions there because we will make a video for you.
Don't go easy. Don't go easy on me, Tom. I want the real tough ones, the ones that scare people the most.
Any questions, put them down on the WhatsApp. We will answer them for you. So I think we're going to cut it here. Thank you, Neeraj, again for joining us. And investors, we will see you on the next one.
Take care. Bye.
Bye now.